Make a video. How to spot fake Pokemon cards. Okay, we can do that. What is up, y'all? Ace Trainer X here, and today we're gonna learn how to spot fake Pokemon cards, mostly because my fridge told me to. Okay, so here we have a bunch of fake Pokemon cards. There are going to be three really important things when you're looking at a Pokemon card that you are going to want to check to ensure that your Pokemon card is legit. So the very first thing you want to do is turn that Pokemon card around. You notice the one over here on the left looks kind of funny, and that's because it's the fake card. You notice the one on the left has a very offset cut border. It looks very strange and it looks not quite right. The one on the right is much more even and the bleed is super nice. That border is very clean. Another thing you'll notice is the Pokemon card on the left, the blues and the whites are kind of washed out. They look like they've been left in the sun for way too long, compared to the card on the right that has really crisp and clean gradients and doesn't look pixelated at all. That is a crisp Pokemon. I would say that 80% of your fake cards, all you have to do is turn them around and you could pretty much tell if they're fake or not. It's really easy to compare the card backs because you can just turn any card around and compare them together. The next thing you want to do is turn that bad boy around and look at the front of the card. It's going to be rare that you have an example of a real card, like this one on the right, that you can actually compare the fake card to. But you can always pull this bad boy up on your phone. When comparing to a picture on your phone, you are really going to be looking at the typography, the text, and the symbols on the card, or any of the graphics that are on the card. The Pokemon stats below the Pokemon, fake cards almost always get this wrong. On the fake Shuppet, it says 2 foot 0 inches. On the real Shuppet, it's just 2 feet. You can also see a huge difference in the font used on the number 353 on the left and the number 353 on the right. Comparing the graphics on the card is super important, and like I said, you don't have to have the real card. You can just pull up a copy on your phone and look at it, but you can see the psychic symbol here is totally different. The one on the left on the fake card looks super jank. You'll also notice that the attack effect on the left put 1 damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. On the fake card, it has a soft enter, making Pokemon go to the second line. The real card does not have that at all. These fake cards typically have a really bad habit of terrible layering. Layering is pretty much where the graphics are on a Pokemon card on top of each other. This is easily explained with the weakness and resistance. You can see that dark symbol looks like it's almost under the weakness. It's cut off on the top, bottom, and the right. It just looks really bad. Another easy thing to do is to compare the font on the bottom right flavor text. A lot of fake cards have this serif font. Pokemon never uses serif fonts on their cards. It's almost always Gil Sans. The last thing that I check for is foiling and finish. This one is a little more difficult to test for, so if the other two tests have failed you, then you're left with foiling and finish. If you put the Pokemon cards in the light, you'll notice that the real card has a very diffused finish. You can see that the finish on this foiling is matte and it doesn't leave a hard shine. The one on the left is almost like a bad mirror. You can easily tell that I am using a ring light in this video, whereas the one on the right, it's diffused well enough that you cannot tell what that light source is. One thing you'll notice on the psychic eyes on the one on the left is they are very shiny because that light is not diffused at all. The finish on the right card is way more matte. Even without the foiling, you can look at the finish. If you add this to a light source, you can see that the real Shuppet on the right, it is still diffusing the light way better than the one on the left. The one on the left, you can clearly see my ring light. The one on the right, it's a lot harder. It is way more diffused. Okay, so let's move on to a real life example here. Let's say you're looking at this Latias and Latios card, okay? Chances are you don't have this card to really look up, so you are going to look it up on your telecommunications device. So if I have this card in my hand, the first thing I'm gonna do is again, turn it around and compare it to any other card I have. If I cannot determine its authenticity from that, then I'm gonna look at my phone. The very first thing I notice here is the background behind Latios and Latias. That is not even on the actual card at all. It looks like they are trying to hide bad foiling. This part up here is also a huge red flag. It says tag T. It's missing the M. And it looks like it's not really rubbing off or anything, so that's just bad. Another thing I noticed compared to the real card is the energy symbols are totally different. It looks like a totally different design. The other thing I noticed is the parenthetical at the bottom. You can't use more than 1 GX attack in a game. In the real one, that parenthetical is split between 2 lines. Something else fairly obvious is the illustrator on this one is Mitsuhiro Arita. That is absolutely not the illustrator. The illustrator of this one is 5-ban. So just by reading the card and looking at the graphics, we can already tell that this guy is fake. Okay, so let's look at a fake that is a little more realistic. Again, the first thing I'm gonna do is turn it around. Now, the back of this card screams fake to me. It is whitewashed, but it could just be old. The border actually isn't cut that bad, besides it being in really bad condition, but it might actually pass this test in its prime. So now we're gonna move on to the old telecommunications device again. This card has a huge tail, and it's actually at the bottom over here on the card. You can tell that the graphic just completely cuts off. Actually, it looks like it was photoshopped off for the foiling. This one could be a passing fake, but one thing I noticed is that the C in claw slash, that C is totally the wrong font. Another thing is the V rule at the bottom. When your Pokemon V is knocked out, your opponent takes 2 prize cards. This is also a completely different font, and you can easily tell on your telecommunications device it is incorrect. Pokemon cards are incredibly consistent. They would not have these very blatant errors on them. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you got something out of this. I love making these videos, and as always, I'll see you next time, and take care.